found a viewpoint. Good morning.
Good morning everybody, and welcome to this absolutely stunning Izta Popo National Park. We've come about 80 kilometers to the southeast of Mexico City this morning to this national park, whose name comes from the two massive twin volcanoes that dominate the landscape.
We'll pop the names of the two volcanoes on the screen because there's absolutely zero chance that we're going to pronounce them correctly, as you'll see. But it's a really popular national park here around Mexico City and very doable in a day trip from the city itself, which is what we're doing today.
Yeah, I think we definitely saved the best for last.
Definitely. So we're starting our walk from a spot called La Jolla, which is at about 4,000 meters. Is a really popular spot to start your hike up Izta volcano from. We're not going to be going up the whole of the volcano today though, because we don't really have the right gear for that. But we will walk up it a little bit just to get some good views, and then we're going to be walking back down towards Paso de Cortes, which is another place you can get dropped off if you want to do a longer walk. So let's go explore some volcanoes. There she is. That's a good view.
Izta Popo National Park is huge, covering an area of almost 100,000 acres. However, the main draw is by far the twin volcanoes, and from our vantage point we could clearly see these two peaks dominating the skyline. Izta is actually the third highest mountain in Mexico with a height of 5,230 meters, and Popo is the second highest in the country at 5,426 meters. The views here were absolutely amazing, so we settled in, had our lunch and soaked up as much of the natural beauty surrounding us as we could.
So as you can see, we're currently standing on the slopes of Izta volcano, and that's actually the only volcano out of the two that you can climb.
Popo volcano, which you can see behind us, is actually one of the most active volcanoes in Mexico and one of the most monitored volcanoes in the world. Also one of the most dangerous, because if it does have a bad eruption, it could affect about 26 million people down in the Valley of Mexico.
Which is crazy, because we can just see it smoking all day long, all the time.
The only people that are allowed on it are professionals. But I think we're going to admire Popo from a distance and let the professionals do their job. I think it's way more obvious from watching us in this video that we enjoy this kind of excursion a lot more than we did when we went to Teotihuacan in the last video. It's just so much more us. Amazing. We're just making our way back down from the viewpoint where we got those amazing views and had lunch. Highly recommend, if you're coming up like us, you're not wanting to do the actual volcano, if you come up to La Jolla car park and hike up about 750 meters, a kilometer, you'll get to a fork in the path. If you take the right fork up about 100 meters, you'll get to this amazing viewpoint where you can see Popo and Izta on either side of you. Incredible, like absolutely perfect spot for lunch. So now we're just making our way back down the way we came, back down to the car park, and then we've got the long walk all the way back down to Paso de Cortes.
Again, like with all the national parks we visited so far, there are many ways to arrive here. Then you can come by private vehicle, or you can take a guided tour, which is probably the most expensive one. If you're on a daily budget like us, then you can opt to do it via public transport and taxis, which is what we did.
You've got to get yourself to the East bus station in Mexico City, which is known as Tapo, and look for the Volcanoes sign. Once you see that sign, go through and you'll be able to buy a ticket there to a place called Ameca Meca. It took us about an hour and a half to get here this morning on the local bus. From Ameca Meca, we walked out the bus station and there's like loads of taxis. You can sort of negotiate a price to take you up to either Paso de Cortes or La Jolla. One thing that stays the same though, no matter which choice of transportation you choose, is to get here early. If you come later in the day, the smog and the haze that surrounds Mexico City and the Valley of Mexico will definitely descend on the volcanoes and your view of them will be disrupted. So if you come in the morning, or even if you come in the evening, you'll have a much better view of the volcanoes, which, let's be honest, is the reason we're coming here in the first place. This bridge doesn't look the safest.
No, I think we're gonna go around it.
Since we've arrived in Mexico and we've been doing our hikes, we've been slowly trying to build up the altitude. So we started in Guadalajara with the Barranca hike, which was about 1,500 meters. And then we went to the Desierto de los Leones in Mexico City, which was about 3,000 or 3,300 meters. And now here in the Izta Popo National Park, we are roughly between like 3,700 and 4,200 meters high. So this is by far the highest we've been so far in Mexico City. So it's going to be a good test of how we cope with the altitude as we get higher and higher in countries that we visit in the future. But obviously the bonus of starting this walk up at La Jolla at 4,000 meters is that the majority of our walk, barring that little bit at the start, is all downhill. So we're making our way down into Paso de Cortes now. We're coming down in towards the forested area, so we're getting pretty close. And Paso de Cortes is the main entrance to the park, where you will have to pay an entry fee to get in.
The entry fee was 50 pesos each, so we paid 100 pesos together.
We continued our descent down to Paso de Cortes before jumping in a taxi and returning back to Mexico City. Mexico City is surrounded by many beautiful national parks though, so we weren't quite done with our hiking adventures in the area just yet.
Come to the Desierto de los Leones National Park, which is on the southwestern edge of the city, and it's actually one of the most popular national parks here in Mexico City. We can't wait to get out and explore it, but first we actually had to get here, and we don't have a car, so it's definitely a lot more difficult if you're trying to come on public transport.
We had the journey.
We went to a tube station called Barranca del Muerto, from where we thought we could get a bus to Santa Rosa, which is the closest town to the park. We waited at the bus station for about 45 minutes. The buses that were supposed to come a lot more regularly than that.
That's just like the system here in Mexico. With the buses, you just never know.
No. In the end, it was getting later and later, so we decided it'd be better to just get an Uber, get here pretty early because we didn't want to be hiking sort of right through the middle of the day. But even that wasn't easy because the Uber driver started taking us back to Chapultepec Park because he didn't believe that we were coming here to hike. I had to convince him to take us here, and then we obviously paid more because he'd gone a really long way around.
We got to the trailhead now, and then hopefully from here will be easy, but we'll see how we're gonna get back because I think that's gonna be another challenge.
So Desierto de Leones translates to Desert of the Lions, and looking at our surroundings, you may be wondering if we're in the right place.
We are.
The name is just very deceptive. Desert in this case probably just refers to a wild place that's away from like civilization. There's a little bit more debate about where the lion part of the name comes from. One theory says that there used to be pumas that used to live in the forests around this area and that they were referred to as lions, so that's where the name came from.
Well, hopefully we won't meet any of them today.
Hopefully they no longer are here.
So the other theory behind the name is probably relating to two brothers with the surname of Leon, who once owned this land. They were part of the Carmelite order, whose monastery we're going to see very shortly.
So we'll let you decide which theory you think is probably the true one. I personally like the puma theory.
The only reason I don't like it because I don't want it to be true and meet any pumas here. Where are we crossing?
Ready to hop some rocks?
So one of the main features of this national park is the abandoned monastery that sits within the dense forest. It was the sanctuary of an order of barefoot Catholic Carmelite monks for almost 200 years from the early 17th century, and you can now explore its ground for a small fee and see how these monks would have lived here. The monastery buildings are actually in very good condition, and the grounds are so peaceful and filled with beautiful flowers. We really enjoyed just spending an hour wandering around and definitely came out calmer and more relaxed than when we entered.
So the park covers over 4,500 acres, so it is massive. And on average, the whole park is about another 750 meters higher again than Mexico City. So we're about 3,000 to 3,300 meters up here through the whole of this walk.
If you've been watching us, you know that we mapped out a route around the national park to explore as much of it as possible. Whilst on old trails, it was pretty easy to map the route out. Once we got here, it's slightly more confusing, I would say.
There's no marked paths or anything, so navigation's been a little bit difficult, a little bit of guesswork going on. Limbo, limbo, limbo. No?
Not with my backpack on and my camera.
So it is very forested here, as you've seen. We were kind of hoping that we'd get a few more views out over the surrounding area, what with it being quite high up, but the forest is just so thick that you just can't.
It's a bit of a shame, but it's a beautiful forest and you're covered from the heat, so it's a nice walk.
Exactly.
In terms of altitude, we're definitely feeling it when we're walking uphill, like, oh, it's only 100 meters up, but then we're really, really slow and we really feel our legs and we're just very out of breath.
So let's start heading back to the town and keep our fingers crossed that we can get back okay from there. Look at the size of this pine cone. Massive.
It's not as big as my head.
That's not a pine cone, that's a pineapple. I do not want to get hit on the head by one of these.
We continued to walk back towards the town, a little disappointed with our lack of views, when suddenly this happened.
Oh, wow. We found a viewpoint! I think we were about to tell you that the route back, the trail that we chose to do on the way back, to just avoid doing because it's very monotonous, you're just following a track the whole way. A lot of it's very walkable, but there's quite a few sections that are a bit overgrown. It just seemed a lot easier to go back the way that we'd come. But now, we've just come out onto this unbelievable viewpoint, which I'm sure not many people know about. And it's just made everything worthwhile. Definitely advise coming back the way we came, and I'll try and mark this spot where I think it is on the map for you guys, because it's incredible. Not one, but two viewpoints. Wow, and this one you get to see all the way out over Mexico City. For the second viewpoint, as you're coming down this trail here, just after that first viewpoint, you'll see this off to the side. These like rocks out here, you got to climb up the rocks and out to this one here, and you get an amazing view out over the city. So yeah, definitely worth it.
We eventually made our way back into town and managed to catch a local bus back into the city.
This has been the absolute highlight of our time in Mexico City.
Really hope you enjoyed our Mexico City series.
And next video will be somewhere completely different. After about 2 months in Mexico, we finally decided to head to the beach.
Yes, but we also have some unique activities planned, so make sure you stay tuned, subscribe if you liked our videos, and see you in our next one.
Bye.
Bye.